Eleni, and this is the Mamamoo podcast, a podcast I created back in 2019 to try and make some sense of the world and all its complexities from a female or feminist point of view, if you like. You know, over these past few years, I have had the absolute honor of interviewing some truly incredible people, and especially women, many of whom we just don't hear about in the mainstream media. And I almost always finish those discussions with a sense of hope and inspiration. Today, my guest and our 1.5 hour chat is a prime example of all this. Nadasa Loizo's CV is impressive. Even more impressive is her ability and skill to negotiate, communicate, and cultivate common grounds, something we are in much need of. Based on a recent article in Cyprus Business News written by Marianna Nicolaou, here's what you need to know about Nadasa before we get into the discussion. In 2006, she moved to Argentina with her husband and spent the next 18 years working there. In 2008, she was employed by the Ministry of Defense as an external consultant due to her master's degree in international security. And she held the highest national authority position of dealing with the control of arms, explosives, ammunition, and other sensitive materials, disarmament and destruction policies, and the management of the biggest deposit of arms on the South American continent. She explains in the article that Argentina is a leading country in Latin America in the production, commerce, and export and import of explosives, and that she was only the second woman and the first migrant woman to be in charge. Now, obviously, in today's episode, we won't be talking about international security and disarming ammunition, mainly because that would be way, way out of my league. Instead, I wanted to focus on a comparison between Cyprus and Argentina and the political landscape now, seeing as recently Argentina voted in Javier Milei, a controversial right-wing figure, and this has turned the country upside down. We will also be talking about women in the military, gender equality and gender-based violence, and most importantly, as a woman involved in politics since she was 14, we also talk about solutions and reversing the outcome that we're seeing with some love. On with the show. Nadasa, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion. Even though when I saw your CV, I was kind of she's like opening her eyes. I was like, oh my God. Wow. And obviously, I lack the knowledge and information to discuss what you do in depth. But I feel that my audience isn't really so interested in that part as much as they are at picking your brain on specific topics here. So let's go straight into it. First of all, I was wondering, do you have any statistics that you could share or research about women in military and security labor markets worldwide?
Well, thank you for your good welcoming and your very nice words about women in security and the military. There are some numbers, but they're not really
Promising. Okay. Wow.
And also remember always that some states do not always share all their statistics. So basically the numbers are not really the ones that, I mean, we are in a moment that we are actually needing to construct those numbers.
Okay.
And start working. But the fundamental part, beside the statistical part, because statistics, when we are talking about topics like these, they have a background that is more interesting. There are questions like, do women want to be in military and security structures in the public and private sector? Should they be there? Can they have the possibility to work there? Do they have the capacities to work in those sectors? I mean, there is this question. I had a question made to me 2 weeks ago when I did a talk at the Ministry of Defense of Cyprus, invited by the British High Commissioner. And a military, not from Cyprus, told me, do you really think that women could do anything in the military? I said, yes, why not? He said, well, I don't think women can do everything. I mean, maybe now they can fly the fighter airplanes, but I don't believe that women could be captains of military ships. And it was a very good question to or comment to start the discussion. But everyone, I mean, there were some women in the room from military and security structures, and we said, well, why not? I mean, what's there that limits us to be there?
So what do you think that people like this person who made this question, what do they feel are the limits for women when it comes to military?
Well, it has to do with the image and the cultural role of women in different contexts. It's not the same. I mean, culture has everything to do with that. The stereotypes are mandates that culture creates for us. And this is why we talk about deconstructing our cultural meanings for different things, right?
Yeah.
The same thing as diversity, as liberty. Now the word liberty comes up a lot. So basically we have to deconstruct. When I mentioned to them that what happened, because women during the Second World War were called in the military factories.
So that was what I was going to ask you. What about before culture changed? Yeah.
Well, we live in a capitalist system. So basically, when the productive system needs women to come in for their productive energy, then we are called in. But when we are not needed, then we are called out. So basically, I feel that it's time that we start giving the opportunities and the possibilities for women to choose where, and to prepare the infrastructure for women to do whatever they want, to choose their career they want. There is this issue that, women and children have this identity of being...
They're infantilized, aren't they?
Yes, to be protected, etc. But that's in a context of war. For certain reasons that they are categories that need to be treated in a different way. Also, it is in all the international norms, there is this background concept that men go to war and women and children and old adults stay back home, so they need to be protected. So in all the legal documents of international legislation, you have this focus on youngsters, children, women, and elders that need to be more protected than the men that are supposed to be in the front line.
Yeah.
So basically, is that okay? Well, yeah, because it's the majority, but there are also women that participate in private security companies today. And there are women that are involved within military structures. So basically, we have to also generate the capacities for them to develop their careers and their professions because they chose to, and they got prepared for that. Another issue that comes up is that if women that work in those contexts become more male, influenced.
So I was going to ask you, do they tend to adopt masculine traits and behaviors and patterns?
Well, it depends on the institution. If the institution have not changed mentality and the institution just incorporated women just because, it's a labor force, and the institution have not prepared the rest of the members and the hierarchy of the institution to welcome this new concept of women coming in the institution, then maybe yes.
Because they're forced to, basically, so they can fit in.
So, well, yeah, women have different ways of thinking and we have different ways of doing things. And we have different alerts because we are talking about professions that, have to do with your basic alert senses, right? What I can say to you from my last high position in the Argentinian government, because I was responsible to create sanctions for military and security institution members that were owners and they had the tendency of firearms for their own personal use. And we received notifications from their institutions that they had claims for gender violence or family violence. So what we noticed is that there was an increase from for domestic violence from women, that they were incorporated in police institutions.
Oh, wow.
So that issue is not studied yet. So basically, we don't really know what happens. I mean, why we are having these statistics with this high number of women that, they exercise different types of violence, not necessarily physical, but other types of violence, because in Argentinian legislation, we have all of the categories of violence at the same level. Oh. So basically, even if you exercise psychological violence, it's the same as if you exercise physical violence. So basically, it's not the same if we take it to the penal legal scenario, but all types of violence are taken for the same with the same serious.
I'm tempted to ask you, and obviously I'm gonna. Is that a good idea?
For what?
To have all the types of violence into one sort of like legislation? We
did, actually, the feminist movement, in all of its integration and diversity, we fought for that because women not necessarily got, assassinated, but we had a lot of statistics about psychological violence and domestic violence and economic violence, etc. So basically, we analyzed it through the years that these types of violence could take to the extreme of the femicide or not. Maybe there were women that suffered psychological and economic violence throughout their whole life and nothing happened because it was not part of the legislation and because they were not categories of legal investigation and persecution. So it's a good thing because today in Argentina we have more legal statistics about this issue. Of course, you can take it. I mean, people say, well, but if you do that, you take the discussion to another level, and some people can, take advantage of it for other reasons, etc. Well, yes, of course, you always have misusage of the legislation, but we cannot avoid seeing a huge problem for women and also children, because when you normally have psychological violence towards a woman within a domestic context, this violence is also exercised to the children. So basically you have gender violence and family violence.
Yeah, it has a knock-on effect.
Yes, of course. So how do we go back to that? Well, military and security institutions, depending on their directives and the chiefs of that institution, what kind of mentality they have, if they are educated, if they understand the concepts of, this new context of women taking participation in decision-making positions and in doing different professions. It depends what kind of character they give to their institutions.
Okay.
So we found out in the Argentinian government that we had to generate training programs for different hierarchies of all the public administration and focus only on the military and the security institutions. So basically that was like the new thing.
Okay. And how was it accepted? How was it?
Well,
how did they take it?
at the beginning, there was a lot of resistance.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why?
Because every time you want to change something, there is resistance. It's normal. Okay. It's part of the body,
Yeah, we don't like change.
We
like our comfort zones.
Well, that's another thing that maybe we can talk about it later if we are going to talk a little bit about politics. But people want change, but when change comes, they are not really specific of what kind of change they want. And when it comes, they don't like it. So basically, okay, we want change all the time. We want to change stuff because, we want to see new things. But if we change, then we lose our comfort, right?
Yeah.
Our life changes constantly. So are we all prepared to go through change?
Yeah. Okay, let's keep that for the politics part because I do want to talk about that. But let's go back to the training programs.
So, the training programs have been going on for around 10 years. And we have positive aspects of them incorporated slowly within the military and security institutions. But we still have a very high percentage of femicide by security and military members. So, for example, 18%, that's the latest statistics in Argentina, 18% of the femicides are executed by military and security members. So it's a problem because it's a high percentage. And if we add more variables to the equation, then the use of the uniform and the use of a firearm makes the situation harder. So basically, I believe there is the necessity of, understanding what a policeman and a military man does today in a modern society.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting discussion, and especially in Latin America when we have these, going to the extremes of government. So basically every time there is this going to the right extreme or going to the left extreme, we have this situation of, okay, the military now, they are supposed to act in a different way. And then when there is a change of government, they have to act in a different way. It's not they change legislation or regulation. It's a different sense of culture, So basically, in order to generate culture, you need time. So if you change from one point to another, then it's difficult to create culture. What normally happens is that the institutions generate their own corporate culture.
Yeah.
And that's a danger. because, they are institutions that belong to democratic structures. So if they become very corporate in order to, find a balance and an equilibrium, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, coming to my mind now, with the limited information and knowledge that I have, is a lot of the time when it comes to reporting domestic violence to the police, especially in Cyprus, we've understood and we've realized that there hasn't been adequate training. And actually, a lot of domestic violence cases do come from policemen, from people who are in the police force. And, it makes you think, you mentioned culture. There's a lot, I wonder what you think about the terminology toxic masculinity.
Well, it's coming out now. Everything now is toxic. So
I really don't like it. I was gonna add on that I really don't like it, and I've said this so many times as well as a mother who's raising 3 boys. I really don't like that terminology because it just paints the picture dark and black immediately. But what are your thoughts in this context?
I believe that human beings do not come out of a tupper. We have this phrase in Cyprus, right? So basically, we have to educate them from a very young age. Everything happens from home, basically. So if we have healthy environments in our homes, and I believe that we can target towards specific programs, but the fundamentals of a democratic society is respect for the other. Yeah. I mean, we can disagree on something. Mm-hmm. Maybe I don't like something on you, but that does not mean that I am not going to respect you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I expect everyone to respect me, so I have to respect the others. Mm-hmm. Of course, there are limits to this situation. If you are being, if you suffer from aggression, etc., you have to have your defenses. You have to know how to manage that situation. So we need to also be prepared for that. And that is also very important. This needs to be addressed within the houses of our society and also within schools. Children need to know what they are supposed to do if they receive aggression from school, from anyone in the educational community, or they need to know what to do if they receive aggression within their houses or from their friends or colleagues, etc. So how do we generate these channels of communication? How do we generate trust? Because for someone to say something like this, we need to generate trust. And basically, we need to generate trust based on justice, because democracy depends on justice. We need justice. So there is this issue that we have been discussing in Latin America for long. If our justice institutions don't work, so basically, why would women from very limited context with no resources go to a police station or a judicial office to make a claim if they know that nothing is going to happen? Mm-hmm. The contrary, maybe the aggressor finds out and then she suffers from more aggression. So basically, we need to generate respect from education. And I go back to the 90s and the beginnings of 2000 in Cyprus, and we were talking a lot about toleration. We need to tolerate each other, and that was a word that came especially in the bicommunal community. Yeah. And my life in Argentina learned me that I don't need to tolerate anyone. Because if I tolerate someone, it's because I don't really like that person. Yeah. I have to tolerate you because, I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a force.
It's like I'm forced to. So I learned a lot in that region about respect. So we need to respect each other. I don't need to tolerate you.
Yeah.
If I don't tolerate you, I just say, okay, thank you, Eleni.
Yeah.
We talk later. And basically we can choose to, not to see each other or talk to each other or etc. Right?
It's changing your mindset, basically. Yeah.
It's also respect. If I don't tolerate someone, why should I force myself to be with that someone? So basically, it has to do with a little bit more of liberty there. But it's an issue of respect. I respect you. I don't lie to you. I don't fake. Why should we fake to others?
Yeah.
And how do we change this, violent situation? We have to start from all, because someone said to me last week, well, because we have to start from education, because education in Cyprus is suffering a lot of problems and there are no values, etc., etc. So my question was, so sorry, I've not been living in Cyprus for the last 18 years. So what I'm asking is, what are the values of the Cypriot society today? Because if respect is not part of the values of the Cypriot society today, all of you are asking for respect, but is it because you want to be respected but you don't respect others? So this is a question that when I do it to friends and family, they don't give me an answer. What are the values of the Cypriot society today?
Yeah. Respect is it's a word that we hear so often. But I feel that we just don't know how to cultivate it. It's almost like we understand the meaning of it, but it's like we can't implement it. Does that make sense?
Yes, because it has to do with putting limits to ourselves. Saying, if we are having a discussion now, and it's not just the two of us, so basically we can go on and discuss and discuss and discuss, and there are other people, you have to respect that there are other people that maybe are not interested in our discussion, and maybe they are not interested in, us escalating a discussion. So you have to take a look on your side, and you have to understand that there are other people there. And maybe you're having, a nice coffee and you start the discussion, and you have to look around you and see if the other people really want you, because maybe they like it and they get information from our discussion. Maybe they are not really liking it and they start feeling uncomfortable. So basically, we have to look around us. Respect is about looking around us and see how other people feel.
I hope I don't miss the question that I have here that is in regards to respect and communication and everything. I wanted to go back, though, and sidestep a bit into what you were told about the education system in Cyprus. I said before that whenever and wherever we can, let's do a comparison of Argentina and Cyprus. Can we do a comparison here? Obviously, you don't know much about, you've been missing for 18 years, but how's the education system in Argentina, and what other information have you gathered in this little time that you've been in Cyprus of what's going on in the education system here?
I'll start from Cyprus. What I've heard is that the educational level is low, that there is this issue about, students now don't know anything about history, so they don't value our historic monuments, or they don't value their the most important historical moments of Cypriot history or of Greek history, etc., etc. And basically the blame is towards the teachers.
Okay.
Which is funny because, teachers have been students taught by other teachers, etc., etc., etc. It goes back.
It's a hamster wheel that just goes on and on and on.
And the other thing is that these teachers also are part of our society. So basically, you don't just learn from formal education, you have social education. So, and there are a lot of morality issues, I've heard the teacher had a smoke during the break, and the pupil saw her or him, and that is bad, etc., etc. Well, if
really, that's the problem. That's
really,
the problem.
That's the problem.
That the teacher stepped out for a fag.
Yeah, I understand having. There is this issue that you have to be the perfect teacher that educates perfectly and gives the example to others. Well, we have been going to doctors for decades and they told us not to smoke. And then doctors smoke a lot because,
I still remember doctors smoking in the office when you went for an appointment.
Exactly. So basically, we can teach from the example, but it's not necessarily the source of education. It is very important, of course. I mean, we cannot talk about respect and having programs about respect and then do not respecting each other. So basically, it has to do with that. So I've heard a lot of moral comments about education. I've heard this issue that, the Cypriot educational levels are very low and that is not good. It doesn't talk well of our country and of our education.
I don't know if you heard, but there was a poll a few months ago that apparently proved that 60% of students, I don't remember if it was secondary or primary, can barely read or write.
Yes. I've heard something. I didn't read through it. Of course, it's very worrying, but it has to do, I believe it has to do with many factors. I mean, digital education is not properly, taken advantage of because we have this, cultural thing up with taking cell phones and digital technology away from our children, while basically they could read books from their own, cell phones. And in Argentina, the tablets were incorporated and the laptops were incorporated in formal education through a program which is called Conectar Igualdad, which means connecting equality.
Okay.
And it was given to public school students, secondary school students, and to their teachers. So basically, with a lot of programs and contents, etc. So basically, what it was created is that accessibility, very, very poor kids that didn't have access to internet and a PC or a laptop started having access to that. And what did that create? It gave the possibility to many of them to read stuff that previously they could not have access to get access to books that they could not buy, to boost out throughout information that their parents didn't even know or their teachers either. So basically, yes, of course, you can always get across the bad literature, but we could also reach that through books. I mean, I remember that you had, the bad books and the good books. I mean,
there's still good books and bad books, according to some people.
Some people talk about that. So basically, what's that? So I believe that we need to, have a different view and a different
Is it more about tempting or incentivizing the actual kids to be interested in what they are being taught?
Well, it's the way you talk.
It's also the way
you teach. Right? Because if you just give them the cell phone and you leave them alone, that's a huge issue. In Argentina, there are NGOs that are now working on making awareness on parents and the educational system about grooming, which is basically bullying in the cyberspace. Because
they have those group chats, which are very worrying.
So basically, what they are doing, they are going to schools and they explain to kids and teachers what that bullying and abuse, etc., that is going on in the cyberspace. And they also explain how you're supposed to own that technology, telling kids and parents that how important it is for a cell phone to be registered on the name and surname of the child, even though, you are registering a child, because if there is legal situations and violations that going on through that device, then you need to prove that the person using it was a child.
Was actual to a child.
Exactly.
Okay.
But going back to the educational part, Argentina made a lot of progress through the program about sexual integral education.
This is a huge topic here in Cyprus.
It's a huge topic here.
I don't know about Argentina.
And it's like I'm looking...
Oh, you've been bombarded with it already?
No, I mean, it's my country. Cyprus is my country, and I really love it. And even if it's going through bad or good stuff, I will always be following the news, etc. So no, I haven't been bombarded, but I have been trying to keep up with the news. So I've heard about this issue. What I can say that the same things, moral and ethical, etc., and the criticisms that are being said here, this is what have been going on in Argentina, and it's part of the change. Remember when I said, people want change, but then they don't want to really change their comfort zone. And also there, as someone that has been participated in politics since I was 14 years old, we always ask for solutions, and we criticize every kind of solution that comes to us, but we do not do critical construction of new solutions. Okay, so if this is bad, how we would resolve it? And there is so much that we don't really know of the functionality of the state and the budget and et cetera, and everyone would start, but they mismanage money because they spend in cars and security and blah blah blah. This is what I have been bombarded with.
Okay, so you have been bombarded with something.
With something, and I say, okay, there are a lot of technical stuff in managing bureaucratic structures. This is not an excuse, but politicians cannot on their own offer solutions, because we need to have more integration of universities, of research centers, of the community. Let's say if we are going to talk about the education system, in Argentina we have by legislation the educational community, which is integrated by the schools, the authorities of the schools, the political authorities of education, the parents, the students' associations. Basically, the students vote their representatives. So basically, we have elections within the schools. So the representatives of the students and the students.
Wow.
So it's not like you have big assemblies all the time.
Yeah.
But if you have, a critical situation in a school,
you
then
have
the
those
school,
different voices.
You have all these different voices.
Yeah.
At least to communicate, to make them understand what is going on, to try to listen to, and it's by legislation. So basically, a director of a school cannot just avoid the parents or avoid the representative of the students.
Okay.
You have to, by legislation, make them part. It makes decision-making harder and more difficult, yes, because you have more voices, but it makes it more democratic.
So how is that working out now in regards to sex education in Argentina?
I cannot talk to you about now because I've been here for the last 2 months and we have a change of government. The educational system doesn't work because of vacation. So basically, we're going to find out what is going to happen with the educational system from the 1st of March onwards.
Okay.
So it's going to be a huge surprise because the new president in his electoral campaign challenged the educational system in certain issues. Basically, he believes in a very, very small bureaucratic state that doesn't have that is not supposed to spend anything, And basically, he believes in the privatization of things, So
Yeah.
basically, if a school has 3 children, like the case, we have been in a small village in the mountains in the weekend, and they told us in the village that the primary school only has 3 children. So basically, in his mindset, that school is spending money uselessly because, these 3 kids should go to the closest school, which could be like
miles away. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the elimination of rights because of the spending issue,
Yeah, which is a huge problem in Argentina. And I feel, first of all, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to ask you about your new president.
Okay.
But you just went into it. So how did that happen? Was it?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I know. Can you?
I feel like we are not answering the question.
Because
we are going through, but
you are, believe me. You're saying very, very muy importante things.
Muy importante.
You are.
How I feel?
How do you feel? Yeah.
How I feel.
And how did you feel when he won?
Oh God.
Did you see it coming?
I saw it coming. I'm getting,
goosebumps.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw it coming socially. I didn't see it coming politically. I mean, not just politically. Because, the political is the result of the social. So basically, how did that happen? Well, it's like these things do not happen just, like that.
Yeah. They're years in the making.
They are years in the making. So, and it has to do with the history and the environment, the mentality of the people, the aspirations of the people, The basic aspiration of the medium Argentinian is that they want to live like Europeans. And I always say to them, so how do Europeans live?
Okay, they got this image
How
that
do
we're
we
perfect.
live? Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
because Europeans have their cars and they have houses and they earn in euros. Yes, but, the standard of living is high. So, okay, not all Europeans go on vacations and, they earn in euros, but the value of, what you earn with what you spend, you don't have...
Out of balance.
So what comes is that Argentinians should live like Europeans and that their salaries are low and that, we should have more liberty to, deal with our economy and not so much restrictions from the government, et cetera, et cetera. The issue is that the government doesn't issue euros or dollars. So basically, the government issues pesos, Argentinian pesos.
Yeah, which he's trying to change now, isn't he?
He talked about dollarizing the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, formalizing the dollarization of the economy, which we don't really understand how he's going to do that, because the only way of that happening is that the United States giving, the government dollars.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they will do for free. So basically, we believe...
Because there's already $1 billion debt, isn't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
We have the highest... Argentina, in the government of Mauricio Macri, took the highest external debt of the history of the IMF.
Oh, wow. Congratulations!
And basically, the Argentinian people have a time frame of 100 years to pay that.
Wow.
So, okay.
Okay, so it's a mess.
It's a mess.
To say the least.
It's a mess. Of course, I have to be critical because I participate in politics in Argentina actively, and I was a member of the latest government, which was, the Peronist government. It was not the perfect government. We did a lot of mistakes, but of course, no government is perfect. There were good things, very good things that were implemented. For example, the COVID emergency, Argentina had a very, very good response to that. And of course, there were dead people, but the rate was controlled and the vaccine was implemented correctly. And I felt that our society was protected, contrary to what we saw in Brazil or in other states that they had more right-wing governments that, people were dying and president, said, whoever wants to get the vaccine, good. If not, you are free to not to get it. So, there is this issue now about liberty and the governments, imposing,
and interfering.
And interfering. But, there are some, when you have war, which is the case of Ukraine, let's say, the president takes all of the decisions. So basically, you have a government that is imposing to you to continue being in war. So basically, okay, I understand that there is an attack from the other side. So basically, our basic liberties are not, there for us to use. But, there is this discussion about liberty. So the globalized capitalist system, what did to us, they said, okay, people of the world need to be free. It's all about liberty and liberties and no obligations from the state. So basically, why do we have, it's like the state is not there to regulate the relationship between the economy and the society, but the system put the state in a situation that the state is the bad guy. And all of the progressive literature, like George Orwell, etc., is used against, the states that are progressive, that are implementing policies of inclusion and diversity and accessibility and more democracy, etc. So it's very confusing.
It is.
All of these things that I say to you have to do with why do societies want changes that can be very harmful for them.
Yeah.
How I feel about it, I am a political animal. So basically, when these things happen, I have my feelings. But I feel very sad, actually. This is how I feel. I really feel very sad. I don't feel frustrated. I didn't lose my enthusiasm and my hope. And I believe that if you look throughout the history of humanity, this is, a little piece of it.
Yeah.
So basically, okay, I believe this is the time that we have to connect. I really believe that if we, once a Marxist, always a Marxist. I believe that we need to unite as people. We need to get to know each other. In the beginning, you asked before going on the microphone, you asked me, can we compare Argentina with Cyprus? Well, we are people. We cannot compare it in fixed variables of, political comparison. But of course we can compare it because we are people.
Yeah.
And things happen to us. And with the globalization, they happen to us in a globalized way. I'm very, very surprised how things that are said there in a different language, in a different context, are very similar to things being said here.
Yeah.
Again, very different. So, and I listen to the same issues being going on and being discussed in other countries in Europe and in other countries in Latin America. And when I had the opportunity to go to international forums, I had the opportunity to listen to similar stuff. So basically, I believe that we need to connect seriously.
Do you feel that a lot of issues are being used as a distraction?
The big elephant, we call it.
Is it the big elephant?
And behind the elephant, you have things happening.
Because what I feel that I'm getting from you now is that, as a humanity, we have a base, and that could be respect, that could be, equality, human rights, all that. And then you have all these other issues popping up left and right. And it seems that people are getting distracted by those issues and completely forgetting the base, our very foundation of what it means to be human, living in a society amongst others.
You cannot talk about human rights and just think of human rights for yourself. I mean, human rights is for everyone.
Yes.
So basically, human rights is for everyone, respect is for everyone, democracy, people say, because that is not democratic. Well, democracy is not an ideology. It's a regime. It's a system,
Yeah.
And other people, I don't want to sound, patronizing, but people that we studied professionally political science have this issue that we get involved into conversations, social conversations, and people say, because his ideology is dictatorial. And said, okay, dictatorship, democracy, authoritarianism are regimes, are systems of managing, resources and population.
They're not a philosophy.
They are not a philosophy or they are not ideologic. And, I've participated in a government in Argentina of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, that for me, she's an amazing woman. She's so intelligent, and she, I will not go very idolatrizing her here, but I mean, you can Google her.
Okay.
You can like her or not. And this is another issue about talking about politics. You can like people or not. You can like politicians or not. But she had a very, very progressive government. And this was the point that the Argentinian salary was one of the highest in Latin America because of other things going on in the economy. So basically, it's how you manage the economy through state policies. So here in Europe, she was called authoritarian and hysteric. The gender issue came up.
Hysteria.
Okay, because she's a woman. They
Has
called
a
her
womb.
yeah, exactly. So basically, dictatorial, authoritarian, etc., etc. Especially when she took political decisions about the economy that were very, very restrictive to this liberty that the capitalist system is eager for, right?
Yeah.
I want to enter your country, take whatever I want, get out. Nothing happens. I don't pay taxes. I evade. I don't respect your regulation, etc., etc. So basically,
sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So basically, this image was created of her as being a corrupt state leader and as being dictatorial. And it was the moment that it was, democracy was flourishing, because it was the moment that you had most participation, And there is the other thing. No one is telling you not to participate. So if you don't participate, basically it's a decision that you take because you don't like it. Okay, we respect it. So at some point in 2017, when our government in 2015, we lost the elections. So we had a right-wing government. And in 2017, she told us, we have to go out and listen to the people. We have to stop talking and listen to the people. But we didn't know how. I mean, because we had this exercise of arguing, constantly in order to make people understand why we were doing. So basically, media and the economic system, etc., made us, put us in a situation where we had to be very defending. And actually, political campaigns had the verb defend public education, defend public health.
Okay.
So in military terms, where you are taking a position of being defended, it's because you are attacked. So I started thinking, okay, maybe we have to change our mindset on how to do politics. Maybe we have to start, thinking a new strategy of how to go back in the battlefield and give new battles in a different way.
Yeah.
What happened with the current president is that he took this position. He took an offensive position. He designed a strategy, of being eccentric.
Yeah.
Basically, he doesn't have the typical image of a typical politician, right-wing, left-wing, center, whatever.
Yeah.
He didn't talk the way other politicians talk. He said whatever he thought, even though it was, very extreme and very, oh my God, it was like, oh my God.
It was just, oh my God.
There was no political correction.
Yeah. Okay. No political
He was
correctness.
no politically correct.
Yeah.
So basically, people said, okay, he's different. Because also his argument was, I'm going to kick out all of the political caste. I will kick out all of the, professional politicians that are corrupted and stealing, etc., etc. So all these moral issues that were cultivated throughout all these years.
Yeah.
I guess the traditional political parties and organizations and politicians, etc. So basically what happened is that, okay, this one is being criticized a lot, and this candidate also, and this candidate. So basically, who can be a candidate? Because you had to. We were being attacked.
Yeah.
So basically, we wanted to choose the best candidate that
Yeah.
But if you choose someone that is not known, you have another problem. People don't know the candidate. You need a lot of time to install a candidate.
Yeah.
We are talking about societies that Argentina is integrated by 47 million people. So basically, you have 24 provincial jurisdictions. So basically, and from one side, from the northern part of Argentina to the southern part of Argentina, you have to take, planes.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened is that he took the offensive. He designed an offensive strategy. Of course, not alone.
Yeah.
He was supported by the media, the status institutions that maintain the international globalized capitalist system alive. And every time we say the capitalist system is in crisis, it's muting. So basically, this is part of the muting.
Yeah.
It started with Trump. Then, people say, how come we are going to the extreme right? The thing is that it's not just extreme right, because they are very liquid personalities and for me, I mean, it's very difficult to put, these kind of ideas in right-wing or left-wing boxes. So maybe we have to understand what is going on. Maybe we need new categories. And the other issue is that the campaign in Argentina was based on the feeling of hate.
Isn't that what a lot of the campaigns in Europe are based on?
That is why
and we can take the example here in Cyprus now. We have a far right wing party coming up to be third party in Cyprus right now. And I often say a lot of the time is that it's just all based on hate for the person.
For the other.
Oh, the other. There you go. For the other.
Remember we talked about respect. If I hate, I mean, when people, when we say, oh my God, I hate, this coffee. And I normally look at them and say, hate takes the same energy as love. So
is it that much?
Yes.
I mean, that's what you mean with it.
It's like, do you really hate
the coffee?
Okay. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to hate someone.
Yeah, it does.
Which basically, if you hate someone, you don't, I mean, how can you respect the other person if you don't love them? I mean, I don't have to love you because I mean, come on, we don't really know each other. So we respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if I treat you well and you treat me well and, we have a good conversation and we can develop love. So basically, you develop emotions. I'm not a psychologist, but from my own perspective, and since politics is all about that. So if you hate someone or something or an idea, it's because, oh my God, you have been taking your time to develop all these emotions.
And you've put the energy into it. But someone could argue and say, which is what we get a lot here in Cyprus, is that I don't hate the other. I just feel that the other is taking from me. And this is the point with immigration, which is huge. I mean, they did a poll the other day in Cyprus, and second to the economy is the immigration as big issues that we're facing now. And I don't want to go into the immigration. If we can stay on the philosophy of it, the ideology of it. But I just remembered that I did say that I wanted to ask you something, a question that is along these lines. Somewhere I read about you that you have learned to negotiate, communicate, and cultivate common ground in what you do. So could you take those skills that you have learned and apply them to this part of our discussion now when it comes to the rise of the far right, how we can tackle it, and also that otherism that you just said, the other is coming for my rights, for my benefits, for my life?
Okay.
And we'll slowly ease it out because we've been talking for an hour.
Okay. These are things that I have developed. I'm not a philosophist. I'm not even a political scientist anymore because I have been more dedicated into the public function than. So I'm not sure I can theorize, but this is the moment when I say these are my own ideas from my experiences and knowledge that I have cultivated. I realized since I was very young that living in a divided country, that we wanted to unify, that we were educated, with blood in our books. Little kids, in the primary school, etc.
They're still on the covers.
They're still on the and a lot of other issues. I mean, a lot of things that stuck in the back of our head. That I realized that in order to resolve things with others, because basically we are citizens of the globe. So basically we have to, distribute and manage the resources that the globe is giving to us.
Correct.
So basically, if we live in Cyprus, this is the part of the resource that, was distributed to us. And basically we need to coexist with other individuals in order to, make our life easier. So we have to first understand that I have to live with Eleni and Horacio and Fedra and Leo, blah, 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 blah. All these people that are are cohabiting with me in this territory that is called Cyprus. We can have more or less people. If you have more, you have to, manage less resources for each person. So basically, that's the idea. If you have migrants coming here and, you have to include them in this redistribution. The issue is, how did we end up here? And I ask, Cypriots around, have you been into Chirokitia? Do you know the history of Chirokitia? So basically, they were people that came from a different place. They were installed here And this is the basis of the Cyprus history, right? Okay. So it's not like,
They don't like that when
they
you
don't
say
like
that.
that. So basically, yeah. And they came here. We came here. I'm coming from a family that has a long migrant history. My father was born in Egypt, being Greek. My grandparents are partly Greek. And then if you go back to history, you know, maybe they ended up in a ship of the Ottoman Empire, etc. So people move. And capitalism, part of the, except of moving freely money and moving freely products, it's moving freely people around. So this is very contradictory when governments and societies say that they are against migration because it's part of capitalism, a very basic part of capitalism. So the issue of I don't want the other to take more from me. Well, do you need more? So basically, if we look, I mean, this is about solidarity, right? So this is how you bring in all these concepts. So basically, I identify you as another human being, no matter where you come from, what happened to you, what you are, etc. Except if you're a criminal, and of course, you know, there is another treatment to criminals. But if we treat the other because of his color or her color or of his identity, of his origin as a criminal, just because of that,
or his religion,
then we are in a problem because maybe that happened to us. Maybe this happened to us at that point, right? So basically, I believe that we need to respect the other because it's part of us being part of something bigger than us, than an individual, a society. Okay, so I respect you, even though I don't know you. And then if I see that you need something, I cannot leave you there and suffering. I need to have solidarity inside me, right? If we go out now in the street and we see a woman that, you know, fall on the floor and she hurt herself, what do we do? You are going to attend her and I can call the ambulance or we will try to help her, right? Okay. If we don't do that, we suffer apathy, which basically is, I mean, you can take one way or the other.
Yeah.
If you respect the other and you have solidarity within you, it's because you have love cultivated inside you. If you go out, see that situation and you don't do anything, you are apathetic, it's because you go the other way. You don't care about the others. So you don't respect. So you understand.
I understand. I feel that
so
that
you
is
start
why
constructing. You start constructing.
Part, when you said earlier that you feel sadness, just what you just said now and the analogy that you just gave, I mean, that is what it is. I feel sad that people will literally ignore that woman. They will, Nadasa. They will. We're already doing it.
But when it happens to us, we cannot get, you know, phrases say, "Oh my God, you know, I fell on the street and no one helped me because that happened to me. I was pregnant in Buenos Aires. I was going from university to my work. I fell and no one helped me to get up."
Wow.
Until I called, you know, the ambulance and I was sat there with my belly.
Wow.
Waiting. So when you live in apathetic environments, you really understand that if you are part of that. So
apart from the apathetic environments that we're living in, in one of your messages, you also wrote about individualism.
Well, it's that. It's
Is
just
that
me.
along the lines?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's me and my family. You know, I don't care about the rest.
Is that a philosophy that is being cultivated by Trump, by...
It's not just Trump, you know.
Right-wing governments?
I believe that we have communicators. I believe Trump is a communicator. He's not part of the, you know... Have you seen The Matrix? The movie, The Matrix?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the...
Oh, you're talking about the red pill and the blue pill?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the architect.
Oh, yeah.
We have the architects, which we don't know who they are, you know, and they change phases all the time. So basically, okay. And then we have the communicators.
Yeah.
So I believe they are communicators, and they are the ones that, I mean, these politicians are the ones that are there working for the social, political, and economical transformation.
Yeah.
To take us where, I don't know. So, but basically, it's, billionaires have so much money that they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I wonder why they want more, basically, and we have less. So, I want to say that, going back to, politicians, and why is such a large group of people trusting a politician, say like Trump or like what's his name? Milei. Why are they seeing those politicians as different to the other politicians? Is it the communication strategy? Yes, of course, because they are, they are outsiders. So basically, there is a media strategy to install them as eccentric outsiders.
So not your regular politician.
Yeah,
he's something different.
It's not like the media. They open up the doors for them. Just they are here just for us to get to know who they are. But this, journalism treated Milei in Argentina like he's here because he's weird and he's saying weird things. We don't really like him, but maybe. So if we ask him what he's going to do to the other government or to the other party, so maybe he says things that we like. So, it's a very confusing situation for the people.
Yes.
So basically what they constructed is that because they are outsiders and because they say what they think, they are not controlled by anyone.
They're no one censoring them.
Yeah, I mean, their agenda is their agenda. There is no one that, has a secret agenda for them, like the traditional politicians that I don't say. And of course, this idea is constructed on realities, on pragmatic issues. Of course, there is corruption. There has been corruption for centuries. And the real cases is what media and the system takes to construct that traditional politicians and political parties are the bad thing in politics and we have to kick them out and etc. because they are corrupted and they are immoral, and because they say to us, don't go to, in COVID, don't have social meetings, but then they had private parties, etc., etc. So, the accusation, it's exaggerated, but it's constructed on real small things.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you create this morality against everyone. So basically in Latin America and in Argentina, we call it the anti-politics.
Okay.
And the anti-politics happened in Argentina in 2001 when the people, the middle class went out in the street and said, you go out, every one of you. So they told, all political parties go out. We don't want you anymore because you cannot solve our situation. There was recovery because there was an outsider who was Nestor Kirchner, that he started the recuperation of the economy in Argentina, of the political system, etc., in 2003. So from 2003 to 2015, you had the recovery of the state, political policies, the political participation. There was like a new incoming of youngsters in politics, huge participation. I was part of that. And I used to say, I had lost hope in Europe and I recovered it here in Latin America. Now I feel that we are in the same situation. Now I'm 40 years old. So basically, I cannot think as a youngster in politics, either in Cyprus or in Argentina, because, my mindset is totally different.
You've seen too much.
I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. So basically, I'm more rational. And I'm not a conformist, of course. And I as I said before, I maybe feel sad, but I never lose hope. And I feel this power inside me that we have to participate. Even, even if you don't like political structures, even if you are not happy with your political party, you have to be there. You have to be there. You have to participate. We cannot create new small parties, all the time. I mean, we can if some things, go absolutely dead. But then this, this sense of I cannot expect others to create things for me. I cannot create others to make my life different and make my children's life different. I have to participate. And when you participate, you realize, first of all, that there are other realities than yours. I've seen situations in Argentina that I never imagined. Right? I've seen situations of very, very rich people and very, very poor people. I've seen situations of manipulation. I've seen different issues. So basically, this makes me realize that my family, first of all, me as an individual, and my family situation is not the same as others. So basically, because you asked me about the individual.
Yeah.
I belong into something which is bigger. It's a society. If I believe in the force of a society and I believe in the democratic system, because it's the only one we found as, working. And then I believe that we need to participate, even if we participate in a local, football team, or if we to make it better and not, or if we participate within the school, or if we do NGO activities, we need to participate. We need to be part of something which is bigger. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something. And we have to find a place where we can express our political, social, and economic ideas. Because hate has to do with not being listened to, not receiving love, not being tolerated, not being... included, respected, right? I mean, so I think that we have to start opening up, and I go back to, we have to go back to the basics. In academy, when we cannot innovate anymore, you have to go back to your basics. You have to go back and read the classics.
Okay.
Because we have been doing so much accumulation of specific knowledge. So basically what is happening in science, especially in the social sciences, is that we have this super extra specialization of things. So basically we forgot where we came from.
Yeah, so far
So we have to go back to it. And now we are not talking about interdisciplinarity. We talk about multidisciplinarity, working together, connecting things. We cannot take this. I will bring up the sexual education. We cannot create political public policies to attack one issue based on one discipline. We have to think of these things in a multidisciplinary perspective. We have to bring in the medics, the sociologists, the anthropologists, the psychologists, the educationals, the pedagogists, the politicians. We have to create big tables of discussion and reading and learning. And there's another issue. Politicians do not have time to learn to read.
Wow, I didn't think of that.
Everything has to be extra resumed in small summaries of one page because they don't have time to read.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you lose time, if you lose your critical time of reading and thinking, how are you going to take critical decisions?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens with the media. I mean, we only read the titles and the subtitles of the news, right? We don't read the whole article.
And the media knows this, which is the reason why we have headlines that are just so triggering most of the time.
People don't have time to read. And we go, look how we go back, right, to the educational system. It's all a circle. So basically, we cannot talk about one issue and not talk about the other. We need to find the time, first of all, for love. We need to find the time to be loved and love others, to talk to each other, to say our ideas, to say how we feel and not to hide it. If I want to cry because I feel emotional, I do, and I will do it with a person. Imagine one person that is full of hate. If that person feels anger and sadness, and I ask you, with whom she externalizes his anger and sadness? No one.
No one. And also
because
the
they feel
chances
alone.
are that it comes out in a very different and aggressive.
Yes,
and
that is why they
express.
That is why they unite. They unite. Firstly, this occurred in the social media. So basically, firstly, they organized in social media. We had the trolls. Remember, years ago, we had the trolls, and then we had the haters, etc.
Now we have the grifters.
Now we have the grifters, etc. Then this was externalized in the streets. Because we thought that they were just trolls. And then we saw them and I said, wow, what happened? You know?
They've come out.
So how, and now I ask you, how can a politician, being president of a country, take decisions if they don't have psychologists among themselves? Because you have to deal with a social problem, which is the psychology of your, how can you deal with parents being angry about your educational decisions if you who are the psychologists that are analyzing the social situation? Not I go to therapy, so I treat my stuff. Yeah, okay. But the psychologist is also a person, so we are a community. I believe that we need to start like, okay, let's meet and start talking to ourselves. This is why I said to you how I feel. I feel sad, but I really want to talk to these people. But in order to talk to these people that are full of hate, I need to be prepared. I need to be prepared.
I realize that.
I need to have a lot of tolerance. First of all, I need to respect that person, right? Because they voted something that I don't like and that maybe turns against me and my family and,
my beliefs,
my society, it's not good for me to see, pensioners that are not able to go to the supermarket and eat, etc. I mean, I feel really sad. The issue is that I have to respect that person and generate this ecological power and force and to tolerate when that person starts,
acting
out, and then give the time to talk and see if we can both rationalize certain things. But first of all, we have to go to the heart.
You've made me think of something else. Do you feel that a lot of the time, one side says there's no point in talking to the other side?
Yes, of course.
Or sorry, I was going to say that many times with the podcast, people are saying to me, you're not platforming the other side. And I always find myself a bit confused.
Well,
about it. And also it's a lot of what you just said now, my personal energy, my personal am I able to tolerate this person? Am I able to have a discussion with this person? So I feel that a lot of the problems, if you want, are because we're pushing one side over there as far away as possible. And the other side as well, there's no common ground.
No, that's why we are on the extreme.
Yeah, and sometimes we're told not to even bother to find that common ground because it cannot be found.
Look, every one of us has a different responsibility. You do this because you love it, and I can feel it. This is what you transmit to me. And this is why I feel so comfortable talking and opening up. But your responsibility is as a communicator. So basically, you have to be responsible of what you communicate, how you communicate it, and who do you bring in your table to communicate. Because, of course, communication has always had an agenda. Always. I mean, communication started as a political activity. Remember, it was illegal. It was, persecuted and everything, right? So don't forget, where did this come from? And if someone says to you, okay, you're not bringing someone from the other side, well, don't worry. They have places to talk to. Political activity has a different responsibility. There is this issue that, all the politicians sit together and drink together and then they organize everything. I mean, come on. Democracy is about making agreements. We can agree to disagree on 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can agree on 6, 5, 7, 8.
Okay, yeah.
So there is this confusion about, the right wings and the left wing, they all meet together and they eat souvlaki and blah, blah, blah. And yes, because it's their job. They have to agree. If they don't agree, then first of all, we don't have a democratic exercise of politics. And then the parliament cannot approve anything.
Yeah.
We need to find common ground. If you don't find common ground, you cannot agree. And the other issue is that we cannot make revolutions, because people say, it's not revolutionary. Well, what is revolutionary today? Technology and science, because it's a change in very fast path.
Leaps and bounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we need to understand that politics is all about taking steps. I mean, we can not, jump around, because if you jump, then, you can have instability. You take steps because the parliamentarians are representatives of the people who voted them. There are other issues, political issues, that we are not going to discuss, about representation, etc. So basically, they are taking steps. Taking steps to what? To find common ground and to agree on certain issues in order to manage the resources that this territory has and that people agree with it. Maybe we don't agree. Maybe we don't like it. Then it's part of them to take steps in changing. That is the more institutional politics. But then you have other politics where I want to know what the other side is thinking. How do I know if I know because I listen to them on television? That's, at the communicational agenda. Sit down. What do you think? I'm not saying that maybe it's revolutionary saying this, but me, on this moment of my life, I believe that as a political animal, I need to sit on that table and talk to the other side. Where did I exercise that? In Argentina, when I was executive director of the National Agency of Controlled Materials. So basically, it's the organization, the public organization that controls the legal market of firearms, explosives, and ammunition. I had meetings with the companies that produced firearms, explosives, and ammunition. And I was criticized. How am I supposed to regulate them, control them, understand them if I don't sit on the table with them, not to agree anything, just to,
to respond.
Here I am.
Yeah.
This is my agenda. This is my policy.
Yeah.
This is what we are going to do. Let me know what you think about it. Are we going to work together for the benefit of society, to reduce risks of accidents, of, deviations of the legal market towards the legal market? There are a lot of security issues to talk with them. They were absolutely surprised.
Wow.
Why? Because they were not used to having this transparency. And this is another issue. I have been criticized from the inside and the outside of my political participation about my honesty, my transparency, and why do you say to people what you are going to do? You're letting them know, because I know how they think. I know that the system thinks the other way around. I hide things So I'm more intelligent than you, and I can, win this battle. So if you are different and you start being transparent and honest, they think that you are lying to them. They think that you are tricking them.
We're so far removed from it.
Yes.
Then.
So basically, I won battles because I told them, look, I'm going to do this regulation. It's going to affect you in this way, in this way, in this way. Get prepared.
Yeah.
I'm letting you know.
Yeah.
Just for you not to. I'm letting you know this is going to occur. They didn't believe it. First of all, because I was a woman in a very masculine.
Does it look? Yeah.
Yes, they
that
didn't believe me.
That had a lot to do with it.
Yes, that had a lot to do with it. Being a woman in a very masculine environment with very masculine objects, yes, had. But in the beginning, I was, kind of pissed off, and then I was having fun with it because, okay, I saw them that they didn't believe me. They didn't. Yeah. They left my office and they thought, she's not gonna do that, And then it happened. So all of them were surprised. And the issue is that they could not, claim, because when they did, I said, I told you this like a year ago. So transparency and honesty is the contrary of being eccentric,
Yeah.
I don't have to be eccentric to call the attention of the public. I just need to be honest. And we have to be honest on how the state functions. I don't want to make political positions about the government in Cyprus because I don't live here and because of ethical, professional issues. But like 2 weeks ago, I heard that the president announced 80 plus goals for this year.
Yeah.
And
83, I think.
83, okay. And I was like, oh my God. Because in my brain, I thought, to reach these goals, you have to establish so many policies. Most of them probably need to be, approved and sanctioned by the parliament. And it's a year with a very limited resources. So I said, why did he say that? Because now the population is waiting, not 80, it's waiting 20. If he's not able to deliver these 20 by December, he's in big trouble.
Yeah.
So political communications has invaded the political system and it's taking decisions for the political system. And they don't care because, political communication agents around the world just, they are doing their profession. So help me to win elections, help me to stay, to have a good government, help me to have a good communication in my government. But then things happen and you have people that feel anger and hate and frustration, etc. And they lose faith in the political system. So who earns here? I mean, who gets the benefits out of it? Well, surely the people don't.
No.
And this is the problem, because if you have a politician that loses an election and goes home or, goes to work, it's one thing. Yeah. But when you have a whole population of people that are suffering emotionally, that are suffering socially, individually, all of these issues, generate a lot of family dynamics that we don't really understand. And, so do we really need to live in this situation? I mean, being transparent, saying, okay, look, guys, Cyprus has this debt. We need to pay it. We need to focus on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's go 80. For it. Yeah. If we go for this and that and that and that, okay. And the Cyprus issue comes up everywhere. I mean, we have been waiting for 50 years for the Cyprus issue to be solved in order for other issues to be attended.
Yep. And I think statistics and research show that the younger generation doesn't even care anymore. I mean, everyone's ignoring that.
Because the political system, it took them time to, understand that we had. I remember when I was young, we had the addiction issue.
Yeah.
What were the policies about addiction? What were the policies about gender equality? What were the social issues, disability, accessibility, work? I mean, many from my generation went to study in other countries because there were no universities.
Yeah.
I'm happy now that there are a lot of universities here. It makes me really, really
But people
happy.
are still leaving.
People still leaving. And then they come or they receive their degree. What you're supposed to work in Cyprus. We're not producing,
Nothing.
So basically, this is the issue. What kind of society are you creating when you have very intelligent and talented people, very intelligent energies also, because, what you did here is very intelligent emotionally and makes you happy, and it generates a lot of capital, not in money, intellectual capital. What do we do with all this intellectual capital that we are leaving out of the country?
Yeah.
This is the issue. How come we have kids that are finishing secondary school and they have no professional orientation? Their orientation is, just think of your individual career just to achieve success.
Yep.
Another issue.
Yeah,
Success.
yeah.
And just go for it, So here you go, individualism.
Yeah.
You don't think of a plan of educating your kids, orientating them and saying to them, look, Cyprus has shortage of labor. Did you know that?
Yeah.
We have shortage of labor on technical professions, engineering of all kinds, IT. Why don't we orient our kids to go and study that? And then, we can have public policies that can link the educational system to the productive and economic system. Yeah. And then, for universities that they don't have the careers here, we can send people to study out to other countries and bring the knowledge here so that we can bring in this. And I've been in this new capital chapter of my life that I am launching myself as a research consultant. I want to introduce the issue of innovation in Cyprus. You cannot believe the low esteem that Cypriot businesses have, even the big ones.
Wow.
They say, no, innovation is for other countries, Cyprus is not able because we're a small country, and say, if we are small, it's easier.
Yes. Exactly.
And innovation is not about buying a new equipment and bringing it in and, changing your unit of production. It's all about any small changes you want, small or big or medium changes you want to introduce in your business. So my challenge is to try to bring in this idea of let's innovate in a new way that we can make our business system more human-oriented.
Yeah.
Because intelligence is not created because of, the equipment.
The devices, yeah.
It's because we use our brain to create, innovate, in order to solve problems. The political system needs to incorporate innovation. And it's not, because what we have been doing is copying things from other countries and bringing them in. Well, no. Innovation helps you to adjust. You need to have your problematic identified, studied with a good diagnosis, and then you can buzz around what other solutions are out there in the world. And then innovation, what can help you is to adjust to what you need. Yeah. It's a tailored resolution.
And adapt it. Yeah, exactly.
It's not an adaptation. It's you create it for you.
Yeah.
You take ideas from the rest of the world and you don't adapt them. You create
you kind
something
of like
new.
Customize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You create it for you.
Can we have you in politics, please, here in Cyprus? Although
my God.
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. And I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of feedback from people, especially women, saying, get her in the government. Nadasamo, honestly, I don't know how to thank you. This conversation could go on. Look, I've got a whole page here of questions. And I didn't
a lot of questions not answered completely.
I do. What I loved about this conversation is that there aren't any straightforward answers to these questions, and that is so evident.
We have to innovate.
That's innovate. That's what we're doing. Anyway, I would like to thank you so much for the very inspiring podcast that we've just recorded. Thank you so much. And since you're not going back, are you going back to Argentina?
Yes, I'm going back to Argentina this Saturday. I have to take the kids back to school.
Okay.
But our plan is to come and go.
Okay.
So
So I can catch you the next time you come?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay, all right. I'm going to do that. Thank you so much.
I thank you also very much for inviting me and for the space and making me feel happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada.